Alright, so to start, you're gonna want to go to replit.com because it's going to be your best source for a kind of decompiler, which we'll get into all that kind of stuff later when it's more relevant. But basically, all you need to know is go to Replit, and I'm logged in, but you're gonna want to create an account, and then once you've made an account, you're gonna want to go to press Create REPL, name it whatever you want. First of all, select Python. Make sure it's this Python. If you type in Python right here, a bunch of different results are gonna come up, but you're gonna want to find the one that just says Python and select that, and then name it whatever you want. So I'll name mine first lesson Python, and then click Create your REPL. And when you create your REPL, it's gonna look something like this. So these packager files, you don't need to pay any attention to these. These are just here for they do a lot of work in the background basically. So first of all, before you do anything, get to know your workspace as you always should. So down here you're gonna have your tools. So you can hide these if you want. Um, and on the right side is where you're gonna have it's gonna default to console and shell, or at least it should. And if it doesn't, so if I close both of these, you can click new tab and console. So console will always be also if you don't want it like two different tabs, I always recommend dragging it to the right so you can code right here and always have your console available. But you're gonna want to click new tab and then obviously select what you want. So I'm gonna have both my console and shell open. So obviously, the first thing you're going to want to create for your first Python program is what every coder does when learning a new language, and that's to print hello world. So hello world is a staple of it's just a staple of coding. I'm not really sure how to explain it. It's just something everyone does. I could go into like the origins of where it came from and stuff, but I myself do not know all of that, so I'm just gonna tell you that you're gonna want to do that first. So to print a statement, it's pretty simple. You're gonna want to type print, and this is the print function. And so with Python, also by the way, um, in other languages like in JavaScript, Java or JavaScript, if you wanted to do like console.log, blah blah blah, you would have to put your colon at the end. But console.log, I'm pretty sure does not exist in, yeah, console.log does not exist in Python. But anyways, like I was saying, so in like Java and JavaScript, you have to put this little colon at the end, which signifies the end of a statement. And they've got all these curly brackets for like functions, so like um function blah blah blah, and whoop, and then they would have their function. Actually, I forgot how you define functions in Java, but it's not important. What I'm trying to explain is the syntax of Python is very, very simple. So, getting to print hello world, you're going to want to start by typing the words print for the print function, open parentheses, and then either um, some type of quotation marks. You can do the single or double, it doesn't matter. And then type hello, and you're gonna see up here, it's going to want to autocomplete for you. You can press tab to do that automatically. It doesn't matter. And when it does that, it might add an additional quotation mark, so just delete that. And then you've got print hello world. I always put an exclamation mark. And then you can either press this run button up here, or you can press Control Enter, and look at that. You printed hello world. So that's hello world. Now let's get to something slightly more complex, like math. Because Python, it can do a lot. I probably should have covered like like what Python is really and how it works and its uses, but we're skipping all that. We're just getting straight into coding because no one likes to hear all of the history of stuff. So we're just getting straight. So now that you've printed Hello World, yeah, if you want to do math, so let's say you're like, man, you've got like a problem and you want to make like a calculator or something. Um, or like you don't have a calculator on you and you're like for some reason you've got Python available and you're like all right, I gotta use Python for my calculator because you know typing out code is much easier than 2 plus 2, what does it equal? Oh, 4. All right, good. But no, so instead, since we're doing it in Python, of course, if you type, let's say, let's define a variable first. So variables, like in JavaScript, you would always have to type variable in the variable name equals and then the variable. But in Python, you don't have to worry about that. If you just type our variable will be I. So I equals, and let's say like 0, or let's do 5 actually, because, and then, and we'll also get into this. As you can see, it's wanting to autocomplete for me. Um, but if we've got I and O equals 3. And as you can see, it's wanting to autocomplete for me, so let's press tab. And now we've got print I plus O. You can type this out, or if it comes up in autocomplete for you, you can autocomplete for it. But I forgot how you clear this. I don't even remember. But now that you've got this, print I plus O, if you press enter, look, 8. Now, if you've got a lot of code and you want to, like, if you just have this print statement in a bunch of other code and it just says 8, you're gonna be like, what is that from? Because maybe you're not sure where this 8 is coming from. So if you want to make stuff easier, what you can do, like not easier, but if you want to make, for print statements, if you want to add like other words to it, so like you would do print f and um the sum of 5 and 3 is, close your quotations, space, what did I do wrong? I just realized I typed this wrong. The sum of 5 and 3 is, comma, F goes right here, doesn't it? There we go, my apologies. I was thinking of CPP, where print F goes right here. But so this is called the F string parameter, as you can see, or right here, F string without any placeholders, blah blah blah. None of that matters right now. Just know that if you put F right here, you can add whatever type of string you want, and then your two integers. These are going to be called integers. So actually, that brings me to my next point. So there are three main types of variables in Python. There's going to be a string, so x equals hello. That's a string. It's a word, or in this case, it's just characters that are within quotation marks. Then there's going to be your integers, which are going to be numbers. So e equals 3. That's an integer. And then Boolean values, which are essentially binary. It's either true or not true. No in between. 1 or 0. True or false. So let's see. K equals false. So, and now you've got, there's the three different types of variables, which of course the three main types. Now that you've got this, let's write a little bit more. Let's add a bit more to our, all right, so let's do comparison operators now. So comparison operators are going to be equals to, does not equals, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, and greater than or equal to. These are going to be your main comparison operators. You're usually going to use these with loops, mostly for, while, if, elif, and else loops. Those are going to be your most, that's when you're going to be using these most. So for example, let's write a simple if loop. So if k equals false, then also after loops, always put this colon. That's how Python knows that you're going into a loop. So if k equals false, and it's going to indent, which means anything you write under this. So if I write this is not part of the loop because it is not indented. So now, so let's actually here, let's do if k equals true. I'll show you an example. So if I do print, it's going to give me an error because, see, it's expecting an indent block because Python runs top to bottom. So that means it's going to go through every single line that we have printed or that we have written and try and run it. And since we never completed our if loop, it's not going to be able to print this value right here, this variable. So we do if k is true, then print k is true. And so if we do this, whoop, that's also another thing for these booleans. Capitalization matters because otherwise it's going to try and see this as another variable. And since true lowercase t is not a variable, we have to put uppercase. So if k is true, then print k is true. And if we run, we can see it doesn't print k is true because right here we have defined k as false. So then if we do if k equals false, then print k is false. Now if we run this, look at that, k is false. So that's how you do, that's like an example of these comparison operators that I mentioned earlier. So, but there's also an easier way to do this. Instead of having to write two if statements, we can delete this and type else, and then put a colon, print k is not true, or actually let's do k is false, because, and the reason we don't say k is not true is because that could imply that k could be something else, and since k is a boolean, that's only true or false, and since it's either true or not false, true or not true, it's either true or false, that means k, if it's not true, it must be false. So that's why I'm just saying k is false instead of k is not true. So if we run this, look at this, k is false. And so, but this value, this else loop, it's comparing to see if k is true, which it's not, then do this. But if you wanted to be more specific and say else if colon k equals else if k equals false, then print k is false. And the reason you might want to do this is because you've got like multiple different conditions that can be within a variable when in a program, and you want to specify a specific condition for code to run. And we'll get into that later as well. So those are your basic if, elif, else statements basically. Else, actually, is it elif? My apologies. It's elif. I think I have to, there we go. So elif, not else if. My apologies once again. Um, so now that you've got, there's our if, elif, and else statements. So now let's move on to our loops, our while loops, because these are our conditional statements. So let's do, I'm just going to name this h equals 0. So this is our integer, h equals 0. So this is going to be our while loop. So a while loop checks to see if a condition meets a certain, if something in this statement meets a certain condition, then do all of this code. It's sort of similar to like K, but it means instead of just doing it once, while that condition is whatever, then continuously run this code. So for example, if we wanted to do while h equals 0, print h is 0. Now if we run this, it's going to constantly print this because h is currently set to 0, and since the value is not changing, then this is constantly going to be running. If we wanted to do like a number that it prints the numbers from like 1 to 100. So let's do, instead of equals 2, let's do while h is less than 100, we're going to do h plus equals 1. And what this does is, instead of, I'm not a very good teacher, my apologies. Instead of just adding once, I'm trying to think of how to explain this. This is post-production me. So basically, the way that plus equals works is that, so plus equals, so if you have right here 5, or x equals 5, if we wanted to get to a, what we could do is h equals x plus 3, and then we would do print h, and then if we ran this, it would print h equal, it would just print 8 because h in this equation is equal to 8. But instead of having to define another variable, what we can do is x plus equals 3, and this is going to be equal to redefining x as x equals x plus 3. And then since it's basically just adding this 3 onto x, and then when we print x, it gets 8. It turns into 8. So, and you can do this in strings as well. It doesn't have to just be integers. So, and this is example right here, we've got our message, which is hello, and we can print message plus equals hello, which is basically going to add the word world onto or after hello, and then it's going to print hello world. So, and we put a space here because otherwise it'll merge the two words together. So if we were to delete this space, it would print it like this. So we want the space, so that way it'll print it properly. So for integers or floats, which we'll get into floats later, x plus equals y is going to be equivalent to x equals x plus y, where x and y are going to be numeric values. For strings, string plus equals another string is going to be equal to string equals string plus another string. it concatenates the two strings basically. Just wanted to quickly add this so that we are not confused about why I did plus equals. Just for now, just know that you're gonna want to do plus equals 1, and then after that, then print h. And then if we do this, look at that. It counted from 1 to 100. And we could do this for any number because Python does not have any limitations. So let's do to 1,000. Now look at that, counted from 1 to 1,000, because while h is less than 1,000 and this h plus equals 1 is adding the number all the way up to 1,000. So right now, if we go into the console and I ask the console, what is 8? What? Can I not type in the console? Hello? You should be able to type in the console. Is it in the shell? No. I should be able to type in the console. I don't know why it's not. Hold on. I don't know why it's not letting me type in the console. That's interesting. Because I should be able to type something. I don't know why it's not letting me. Alright, that's fine. Anyway, so if we wanted to do, and then if we do rent h, and we're doing this outside of the loop, so that way it's not gonna, it's just for readability. Let's do, actually, got that, print f h is currently equal to space, and then it's gonna say h, and it's gonna say, see, h is currently equal to 100, because while here the value does not seem to be changing, in the program the value of h is, of course, changing. So now let's get into functions. So functions are fairly simple. I could give you the very long and technical explanation, which nobody wants, or I can give you the simple explanation. So simple explanation is that a function is kind of works as a folder. It condenses code into a type of a function, basically. So for example, if I did define, it's def, my apologies, not define. So define, I'm just gonna call this h counter. Also, no, there cannot be spaces when it comes to like naming stuff. Like for example, if I wanted to name a variable, like the number, and I wanted to name this, the number is 100, and I wanted to do print 100. Hold on. If I do this, see, you can't do this. I would have to underscore this. Oops, I didn't even realize I did this. And I would have to print the number with the underscore. There cannot be a space, because Python doesn't like that. So just saying. So if we do define h counter, and this would be for the stuff that goes in here, I'll explain in later as usual, so just ignore this, and put colon, and we're going to select everything here, press tab to indent it. So now everything in here is under this function that we've had, And since this function is not being called, it just exists. This code knows that it's basically within this function, but since the function is not being called, the function is not being told to run anywhere in the code, nothing happens. So if we do this, look at that. So, but then if we wanted to call this function, all we do is type the name. So h counter, local variable h. I forgot to put this within my function. Sorry, I make beginner mistakes too sometimes. But there we go. So also anything that's within these functions, so these variables that are within this function, they're known as local variables. They can't be called outside of the function. So like if I wanted to do print h, it's going to error because the h is only defined within this function. So instead, we just call the function and it runs whatever code we have in here. And this can be useful to reduce redundancy within large programs, where if you need a certain chunk of code to run for whatever reason, then instead of having to copy paste, you can just, have the function and then call the function whenever needed. So, all right, that's functions. If you need me to explain anything more, please tell me, and I will definitely elaborate. And I guess like its own mini video for you. So just letting you know. So like if you need more explanation on the um functions, then I can create like a small video dedicated to just functions, or anything. So but that's functions. So um now let's go into lists. So lists are going to be a bit complicated, I guess. um so for lists, so let's create a list. Let's call it my list. Don't forget the underscore because spaces, as we said, don't work within Python. So let's do my list, and um, let's have three different indexes. So an index is basically just like the value, just the data. The I'm thinking of how to explain this. Um, it's kind of just like the stuff that you've got, like the different data, I guess. So if I wanted to do, I guess apples. Also, after each item in a list, always put a comma. Always, always, always put a comma. Apples, bananas. I think I spelled that right. And oranges. So after the last item, you don't need to put a comma, because reasons I'm not sure. But now that we've got our list, so this is three different strings within our list. If we want to print our list, so print my list, it's going to print it like this. So lists can be used for any number of reasons. It can be like, if you want to have a choice or like a random choice or something, then, or like choose like a random item from like an inventory or something in a game, then you store all the items in a list and then call and choose a random item, which I'll explain how to do. So if we want to call a specific item in the list, so Also, by the way, hashtags are comments, and comments basically you can put whatever in the code, just the program ignores anything that's after this hashtag. So if I type print, or let's do right here, if we put hashtag before this, then it's not going to print it because it's commented out. So in Python, indexes. So indexes are going to be like the numbers of a list. So this is index 0. It's the first item in a list, the second and the third, but the index is 0, 1, and 2, which it's kind of it helps with organization, I would say. Um, which I guess it can be kind of considered your own opinion on how you feel about it. And of course, there's always a technical explanation for it, but I won't explain and get into all that. Just know that indexes start at 0. So if you wanted to call a specific index, so let's say we want to print only oranges. So you would do print my list, and you're going to put bracket 2. Hello? Hello? Okay, so I figured out what I was doing. Also, I want to go back and say, this printf statement, um, it's been a while since I've done Python, and I was wrong about the printf. I'll explain what I did wrong later, but just I found out you don't actually need the printf. This is for okay, actually I'll explain it right now. So instead of doing h is currently equal to, and then ending the string, and then putting the comma, and then the variable of h, what you can do is you can put, you can end this and put, oop, nope, it's in here, h, um, and it's going to still print the same thing, basically. Um, Oop, that's right, we still need to call the function, but whatever. Anyways, so I figured out what I was doing wrong here. These have to be brackets, not curly braces. So if we, there we go. So if we see print my list index 2, and it's printing only oranges. So that is going to be basically how you call a specific index. And we could get into concatenation, slicing, length, which I'll get into in the next video because this has already gone on for fairly long, and this is just basic stuff, and this is already I think like 30 minutes or so, and I don't want to torture you. So yeah, that's all.